Place the fabulous Daniel Andrews as leader of the Victorian Parliamentary Labor Party, and in turn follow in his footsteps as Premier of Victoria, and we'll be heading over to Government House shortly for the official part of that proceeding. I'm delighted to be joined by my parliamentary colleague Ben Carroll, who has been also endorsed by our caucus colleagues as Deputy Premier, and also Vicky Ward, who is the member for Eltham and will be filling the ministerial vacancy created by the now resignation of the member for Mulgrave, Daniel Andrews. Well, it is such a deep honour and privilege to be in the position to be heading to Government House and to be sworn in as Premier of Victoria. And can I say, 24 years ago, almost to the day when I walked into this place, as a much younger woman from regional Victoria, I never expected to have this length of service, or indeed to be able to have had the honour and privilege of serving the Victorian community in various ministerial roles under premiers, strong, decisive premiers of Steve Bracks, John Brumby, and more recently Daniel Andrews, and then to in turn have the support, unanimous support today from my parliamentary colleagues is indeed also a deep privilege, and one that I pledge to continue to work incredibly hard, as I have done each and every day. I have had the honour to represent my community of Bendigo East, the community where I live, the community that I represent, the community where my husband and I are raising our two beautiful, wonderful children. I would also like to make a few acknowledgements, and I firstly want to acknowledge the now outgoing Premier of Victoria, Daniel Andrews. There's been lots written in just the last 24 hours about Daniel Andrews' leadership, his strength, his courage, his determination, how he's been driven by his values every single day he has served the Victorian community. And I want to thank him, Kath, their wonderful children, for the service they've given the Victorian community. And I also want to thank his staff, who've also worked incredibly hard, and particularly want to single out Lissy Ratcliffe and Jessie McCrone, who have served this state with such great distinction. I also want to thank the love and support of my family. I've mentioned my husband and two wonderful children who give me such tremendous love and support, and who very much keep it real when you head home and work through the issues of the day. Not my issues of the day, but their issues of the day as a family. But also too, as the daughter of working people. My father, Ben, and I were just reflecting, we're both kids of power workers. My father worked at the SEC, as Ben's did as well, and a proud union member, and also come from a proud Labor family. My mother and father have given me the foundation of everything I have done in my professional and personal life, and they've given me those values of hard work, determination to drive equality of outcome, equality of opportunity, and it's those values that I carry forward through to this day and onwards in the role I will serve, in the way I will serve as the Premier of Victoria. I will also just say this: I pledge to the Victorian community that I will continue to work hard, as I've done every single day as a Member of Parliament, particularly too, I think, in the last 8 years. How we have worked hard as a government. We've certainly driven a big and strong agenda in the transport infrastructure space, where we've gotten away big and complex and challenging projects that we haven't run away from. I haven't walked away from those challenges. We've pushed on because we've understood the importance of those projects, like the Metro Tunnel, and like the projects underway, the North East Link, the Westgate Tunnel, removing level crossings as we've been doing across the community of Melbourne. But I also come to this role with the opportunity to continue the strong reform agenda, and also chart a future course for the state. And in coming days and weeks, I'll have more to say about policy priorities that I'll be bringing to this role. Today, though, is about obviously marking that transition and signalling to the Victorian community that pledge of working incredibly hard. And on that front, I'll hand over to Ben to say a few words, but also we'll take a few questions, and only a few questions, because we do have a lot of work ahead of us, because this is a tremendous privilege to serve the Victorian community, a wonderful state, a wonderful state, full of rich and beautiful natural environment, the diversity of our state, the opportunity to work with our First Peoples Assembly as we walk towards that path of treaty here in Victoria. It's a wonderful state. I look forward to serving it, and we'll now hand over to Ben to say a few words.
Thanks, JA. It's a real privilege to be serving as the Deputy Premier. I've known JA for more than 20 years. She's not only a colleague, but she's a friend. Jacinta has always lived and breathed regional Victoria and has done so much from the level crossing removal program right across our state and rebuilding the transport infrastructure. It's been a privilege to work closely with her as the Public Transport Minister. I'm certainly looking forward to working closely with her as the Deputy Premier. I can't wait to roll up the sleeves and get on and support this new leadership team. Can I congratulate Vicky Ward, who's also an outstanding addition to the Victorian Cabinet. We're really looking forward to getting on with it and doing great things. As Jacinta said, I'm also the son of an SEC worker, born and raised under the flight path of Melbourne Airport in Airport West. First job at the local Kmart store, and then to think now to be Deputy Premier and to be serving alongside Jacinta and our wonderful, diverse and strong and energetic Cabinet is something really, really special. Can I also pay credit to Premier Daniel Andrews, Kath, the children, who has just been outstanding. He's rebuilt our infrastructure, our social infrastructure, and will go down in history as a remarkable, remarkable person and a remarkable Premier. And on that note, I'll hand back to...
Thanks, Ben.
Premier-elect Allan, two quick ones from me. You're the first female Premier to lead Victoria since Joan Kerner. Has it dawned upon you in the half an hour that you've come downstairs from the caucus room that fact? And what style of government will you seek to lead? Will you make changes to the public service and reform the Premier's office, which currently most decisions through under the Daniel Andrews government have funneled through that structure? Will you seek to empower ministers more, such as how the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has done?
So Simon, on the second part of your question, as you've pointed out, it's been a mere minutes since we've had our caucus meeting, and I also flagged I will be having more to say about policy priorities over the coming days and weeks as we go through the process of swearing in a new cabinet, a new fabulous minister, a new cabinet that will necessitate some reallocation of portfolios. So if you can give me a little bit of time in terms of coming back, in terms of signalling some of those policy changes that in turn will also potentially see some other machinery of government changes that we will work through in the usual way. And there's also a process that needs to be followed in terms of receiving incoming briefings from the Department of Premier and Cabinet, because there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do, and I absolutely intend to hit the ground running in terms of continuing the work that's underway. We've got that enormous, important housing statement that was released just a week ago. Just a week ago, many of us were together in Kensington talking about the most important and critical issue for the Victorian community right now, which is how do we build more homes, more affordable homes, more quickly. And so they're the sorts of things we'll continue to push on, but there will be some other important policy priorities that I'll touch on in the days and weeks ahead. In terms of the question around Joan was a wonderful mentor and support to so many of us, and I think it's fair to say men and women across the Labor movement. So it's not lost on me that I am only the second woman to lead this state, and that is also comes with some emotion, but also I did hope I'd get through this without becoming emotional. I also hope it says to young women, older women, women from across different backgrounds of all parts of the state, that leadership takes on different shapes and sizes. And leadership, women have a role, have a place in leaders in our community, whether it's in politics, running local community groups, being a small business person, running big corporations, running a farm. Women have a place to be recognised as leaders in all of these roles across our community. And I hope too that it sends in some way a message to younger women. I know along my journey young women have talked to me about my journey and how they can learn from that, hopefully learn from some of the slings and arrows and not have that repeated, but also too how they can see that leadership does come in different shapes and sizes, and there is a place for women at every single table, at every single decision-making table, in every single organisation around this state.
We spoke about working under Bracks and Brumby and also Daniel Andrews. They had very different leadership styles. This isn't your first leadership position, but how would you describe your leadership style and what do you want to bring to the role?
Yeah, look, clearly every leader is different. The three leaders you've referred to, Annika, John, Steve and Daniel, all brought their own style to it. And I guess I say over time the Victorian community will see me bring a very different style, one that is built on those values that I talked about, the values of hard work, the values about equality of opportunity, the values around supporting working families, supporting our beautiful natural environment. So they will be the values I will bring to the role. And then as we shape it, as I work collegiately with colleagues, as I have done, we worked, and I refer again to the housing statement, with a group of colleagues, we worked incredibly hard over the course of this year to shape the housing statement that was released last week, and that required that collegiality, that bringing together of different parts of government, complex issues, challenging issues. So I think that gives you a sense of the work that I've done to date in terms of working closely with colleagues in a collegiate way, but also too, I find the best decision making is also centred on getting out and about, talking to people. Just a day or so ago on as I say, I'm losing a little bit of track of time. It was just yesterday. I was in Sunshine, meeting with the local community leaders there about the opportunities around Sunshine. So getting out and about is where also I'll be continuing to do that and wanting to do more of that to make sure we're not just listening but taking on board the issues that are important to Victorians, so they can see that action being taken.
Earlier this afternoon,
hang on, I can't.
How's Tim Callis feeling? He wanted to be deputy earlier today.
Look, Tim,
will he be your treasurer?
Well, look, if I can give my colleagues, my ministerial colleagues, due respect, that I'll be having conversations with them. Heidi, I think you'd appreciate, not through the media. I'll be having conversations with them about the shape of the cabinet and the portfolio allocation. So again, that will take a few days to work through, and also require another trip to Government House to have that work through. And no, well, Tim, I look forward to working alongside Tim as Treasurer. Tim has been an outstanding Treasurer of this state. He's handed down 9 budgets. 9 budgets, that is no mean feat. And when you consider those 9 budgets have been through some of the most challenging of times we've worked through over the past century. He's a great man. He's got, again, a man driven by great values, commitment to the Victorian community, the Labor movement and the Western Bulldogs, as I think we should say. Well, again, I've just said to you, I've just said I want to show him respect, but I will be saying I want to continue. I would be expecting him to stay on Australia.
Earlier this afternoon, you're now deputy.
Hang on. I can only do one. Chanel,
sorry. How do you make this role your own? We know that Daniel Andrews had a very specific style. What do you do to make it your own and to not constantly be compared to him?
Oh, look, I think comparisons are inevitable. And whether it's between premiers, the question about women in leadership roles, I think comparisons are always inevitable. So ultimately it's for people to make up their own minds, and Victorians, as we've seen, will very strongly make up their own minds about how, particularly people in roles like this, how they're performing and what they think of their leadership style. What I will bring, in terms of your question, what I will bring to this role, I've said a couple of times, I'll bring hard work, I'll be driven by my values, but I will also be driven by that genuine desire to connect and listen to people, take on board their concerns, their issues, but also where there are opportunities to continue to drive forward the opportunities in this great state.
Earlier this afternoon, your now deputy was challenging you for the premiership. Is that a recipe for party unity?
We've walked out of the Labor Party parliamentary room as I've been supported unanimously by my colleagues, as has Ben, for the position of deputy, and we are very keen, and so I will only take a couple more questions this afternoon. We are very keen to. We have a lot of work to do. We've got to get to Government House. We've got to continue the reform agenda. As I've said, there's the new cabinet to shape up. Parliament's back next week, so there's a lot on the agenda right now, and that's what we are focused on. And I think I can speak for all three of us that we are deeply grateful and honoured for the support we've received from our colleagues.
What will you be doing
A
to keep the team together and united?
For your transport portfolio.
Sorry.
A lot of people know you for your transport portfolios. Obviously, the Premier had a massive social reform agenda. Is that something you're going to pursue as well? Yeah,
look, you're right. I've had it's been a great pleasure to, and at times it's been challenging as well, but a great pleasure to be responsible for the biggest transport infrastructure agenda the state has ever seen, and also to get out on those work sites and meet the tens of thousands of workers who rely on this transport infrastructure pipeline that we have built up and we'll look forward to sustaining. But also too, in terms of the social policy areas, whether it's been sitting around the cabinet table or sitting around kitchen tables in my community or talking to people in my electorate or further afield, there has been working through those big and important social policy reforms around mental health, the work on family violence, the work on housing, as I mentioned before, was a big and important part of the work that I'd been leading with colleagues over the past few months. That is work that will continue, and I particularly want to acknowledge today and say directly to our leaders of the First Peoples Assembly how I very much look forward to having conversations very soon with the leaders of the First Peoples Assembly about how I am absolutely determined to walk with them on the path to treaty. It is a big and important piece of work that we are doing right now as a government, and I intend to walk alongside of them with respect, with dignity, but with determination to work towards the treaty outcomes.
Premier, what do you say is the biggest challenge facing Victoria, and what's your number one priority?
Look, there is, I think if I can have a couple of challenges, which are also present opportunities as well. And the housing challenges are first and foremost in our mind, and that is where last week's statement was important. But in many ways, we did a lot of hard work leading up to the release of that housing statement. But in many ways too, the hard work now continues as we have to work alongside community housing providers, the industry itself, communities, as we implement these reforms and drive towards an outcome of building more homes, more affordable homes for people to live in. That is really the number one issue that, again, whether it's in my community of Bendigo East or more broadly around the state, that's the issue that we are going to be a big ongoing priority for the government. And then in terms of the other challenges and opportunities that we have to work on as a government. For state governments, it is always about continuing to deliver strong services that families rely on, particularly working families. So that ongoing support for our public schools, the ongoing work that we do working with the fabulous public health workforce in terms of delivering healthcare services, the reforms in child protection that are particularly big and important. So continuing to work on those social service reforms, continuing to deliver our infrastructure agenda, and also working with my colleagues on making sure that we continue that strong foundation of the economic management that has been put in place through the work that the Treasurer has done over the past 9 years. And we're going to have to probably wrap it up soonish.
Do you intend to have a second sort of home in Melbourne?
Well, I think that is having a Premier regionally based is perhaps also something that has not been common over the passage of time, and so I've been doing that for the last 24 years though, Heidi. I've been juggling the travel. It is, but this is where I do, again, want to pay tribute to the wonderful love and support I receive from my husband and our kids. I couldn't do it without them, and they make it all possible, but they also are my inspiration and motivation to keep going, because as I said before, the issues my 11 and 9-year-old bring home to me broadens the issues that come into my world as a politician, and also broadens the perspective that you get. So you juggle the travel. Every working family juggles travel. Doesn't matter which part of the state you're in, and we're no different.
Have you had a moment to touch base with them since that meeting?
We've had some fleeting conversations, and they were keen to know the outcome too. I think it's fair to say. It's remarkable how politically literate your children can be when you have these jobs. I think we both know that. We all three of us know this. So yeah, I've had a very brief touch about it. Well, in some ways it's continuing to do the work. As I've said, we're off to Government House, got meetings lined up, meetings tomorrow. So the way I will mark this moment is by pushing on and continuing to work hard, because that's how I've treated every single day. It's been a privilege to represent the community of Bendigo East here in the Victorian Parliament, and over the years hold various portfolio responsibilities. That's, I guess, if you like, how I'll mark the moment, is continuing to work hard. I will have a family meal. I will catch up with the family for dinner, but that is the focus of the time ahead.
Will you stay in touch with Daniel Andrews to get advice as you find fit?
Well, Daniel is a friend. I've known Daniel for a very, very long time. And I remember sitting next to him in the then opposition rooms at our very first opposition meeting after the 2010 election, sitting next to him and endorsing his leadership at that time. So I will, yes, look forward to remaining in touch with Daniel, with Kath, for friendship and support, because that's the sort of people they are. They have given that friendship and support alongside the professional support to all of us in the caucus. We're going to let them have some time off though too. Let them have some time away. But yes, I look forward to keeping in touch.
Ben,
Sure.
Ben, you threatened to challenge for the leadership this afternoon. How can you say that this party is united?
Jacinta was elected unopposed and unanimously. I supported Jacinta 2 years ago to become the Deputy Premier. She was an outstanding Deputy Premier, and she's going to make an outstanding Premier. I'm very proud to be serving her as the Deputy Premier, and I'm looking forward to rolling up the sleeves and getting on with the job. We've worked really well together, as her as transport and infrastructure, myself as public transport. As I said earlier, I've known Jacinta for over 20 years. She's not just a colleague, she's a friend, and I am getting on with the job.
Why did you try to stand against her?
These are matters for, obviously, our party, but I really wanted to make sure that with Jacinta as Premier and myself as Deputy Premier, we have the most strongest team leading into the next election, and that's what I think we have. We've got a great combination, great diversity coming in, and real strength with people like Vicky Ward joining the Cabinet as well.
Was it play to get the role as Deputy?
I was always very keen to rise. I've had 14 portfolios over 6 years across corrections, youth justice, transport and industry and innovation and manufacturing, and I'm always looking to see how I can continue to increase my contribution to this outstanding Labor government and build on the legacy of the Andrews Labor government with the Allan Labor government.
Can you understand how this
that
looks?
you couldn't get the support of your colleagues to run as Premier?
I'm privileged and honoured to be standing here, having supported Jacinta to become Premier, having supported her to become Deputy Premier. To be her Deputy Premier is a real honour. I couldn't think of a better job in the world than to support Jacinta, let her make history again in 2026, and let's get on with it.
What's your relationship with Tim Pallas going to be like now, given you effectively pipped him for the deputy's position?
Well, Tim's one of my closest friends in politics. He helped give me my start when he was Chief of Staff to Steve Bracks when I actually first met Jacinta as a newly minted member for Bendigo back in '99. So Tim Pallas is one of the people who I admire most for his decency, his humility. He's someone who I look up to and will always have a strong affection and strong relationship with.
And Ben, how would you describe your leadership style? You know, you have a role as deputy. What do you want to bring to that role? What personality?
I want to bring inclusiveness. I want to really make sure we're consultative. Like Jacinta, we've got some great ideas going forward, and we're looking forward to rolling up the sleeves and embedding so much of the reform we've already done, but getting on and making Victoria the best place in the nation to live, to work, to get an education. We've got the Metro Tunnel coming very quickly. We've got the Westgate Tunnel. It's such an exciting time to be here in Victoria, and to have a new Premier-elect is really exciting as well.
Now I need to give Tom from the Bendigo Addy a crack.
Yeah.
So I'm going to interrupt on this point, and this is the last question is going to Tom from the Bendigo Addy, because Heidi, he's come all the way down from Bendigo. So
thank you everyone for
now everyone knows Tom.
So two questions. When can major
I should have checked what your questions were first, though, shouldn't I?
Yeah. When can major regional centres, Warrnambool, Ballarat, Horsham, etc., expect a visit from you? And also, what changes do you foresee with the new leadership team for regional Victoria?
Well, on the first question, I'm grateful for the invitation. I hope that is that they're looking forward to the visit. And look, I've through my previous over all the time I've been a minister, I've travelled every single corner of the state. Will be one of the best roles I had as a minister was serving as Minister for Regional Development. So I have a really strong set of relationships with regional communities across the state. So yes, I will be getting out and about across the regions. Obviously, that will have to be scheduled in. We've got 5 sitting weeks of Parliament to work through before we get towards the end of the year. So I look forward to alongside the time I spend living in regional Victoria, to visiting other parts of the state. Tom, in terms of the other part of the question, I guess in terms of your answer about what this message sends to regional Victorians, it's a bit like what I was saying earlier. The message I think it says to regional Victorians is a bit like what I was saying about the message for women, is it shows that regardless of your background, this is a place that can give everyone a go and an opportunity. And if you work hard and work respectfully with colleagues, you bring determination and drive, your colleagues in turn will support you, and the Victorian community will support you. And I think you know that's how I've worked as the member for Bendigo East, and that's how I'll continue.
Is this my life begins at 50?